Good evening, everybody. This is Enrique Sanchez of HLM, Hispanic Lives Matter. Tonight on our panel, we're going to be having a discussion about mental health and criminal justice reform in the Hispanic community. Tonight's guest is Claudia Ascabasio. That's how you pronounce her name?
Yeah, close enough. Arcabascio, that's good.
Who is an attorney. Frederick Shaw, who is Reverend here in California, and Dr. Margarita Shaw, who is a pediatrician. So I would like to start up with you, Miss Claudia, if you could kindly introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. I am the Vice President of Citizen Commission of Human Rights in Florida. I am an attorney, but I'm not licensed in the US. I'm licensed in Venezuela. I'm living here for many years, but I use my expertise to educate people about the mental health law here in Florida. It's called the Baker Act. And I help also victims with involuntary commitment, right? Under the Baker law, all the abuse has been done with that here in Florida, especially with children. Yeah, and obviously I do for the Hispanic community here in the state of Florida.
Okay. Would you like to introduce yourself, Margarita? And then you, Fred, afterwards.
Okay. I'm Margarita Gonzalez. I'm a medical doctor. I have a few specializations: pediatrician, family doctor, neonatology, and I work also with Citizen Commission on Human Rights to inform the people about what is exactly about mental health, about the label that people receive, mostly kids. And so I try to educate, inform the people, then they can take a better decision about health.
Excellent. And you, Frederick, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Reverend Frederick Shaw. I'm the Director of Public Affairs, International Spokesperson for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. I'm also the President of the Inglewood South Bay branch of the NAACP. I'm an advocate and I do civil and human rights work. And, you know, we're fighting for the different communities to make sure that they're not harmed by psychiatric abuse.
So tonight's question is going to be for Claudia. From your viewpoint, how would you describe excuse me, the mental health situation in the Hispanic community in Florida, and when it comes to criminal justice? Are they tied together, or do you think they are separate?
Well, I think they're very tied together because the viewpoint on mental health has been spread out into the community, believing that the mental illnesses exist. And the truth is the mental illnesses is a matter of opinion. There don't exist a medical test that can, or like an MRI or a blood test or anything physical that can prove somebody really have a mental illness, let's see, question marks, right? And then when you go to the criminal system, so is, for the point of view as a lawyer, let's in this way, you know, you want to protect your client, and you can say, okay, let's get in the name of your mental health that you were not acting sane, or you have this trauma, you have this mental problem, so you can get all the let's see, all the how you said
You can say it in Spanish.
punishment.
I could try to translate
Okay,
it
that's
for you.
okay. And thank you. All the punishment that you should have on the other side of the coin, right? The mental health has been abused a big time. I can give you examples here in Florida when somebody is submitted for an involuntary examination under the mental health, here it's called the Baker Act. You get people on their handcuff, right? Putting in a police car. I'm talking about kids like 2 years old, right? Putting in a police car and bringing to a mental health facility for like an examination. And you said, what's wrong? Right? How kids cannot even have the handcuff because they're so small to be putting in with those devices to be protected by other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we denounce here the abuse has been done in the name of the mental health of protecting people, as just here is something so relaxing, like let's see my neighbor, I don't like my neighbor, I call the police and I said my neighbor is acting crazy, and the police come in and somebody said what's happening, and the person gets very upset, let's say become upset, then the police can decide, well, this guy is having a bad behavior, and they go and they take the person and go to a psychiatric facility. And you go to a school, and what is my kid? No, he was bringing to a mental health facility. Why? Well, because he was rude with the teacher. Said, how that can happen? So that's what we denounce, and yes, is very together the criminal behavior and confused under the mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Is there anything you would like to add, Fred?
Yeah, well, one of the things that people are not aware of is they're actually trying to transfer criminal behavior into the field of mental health. So, and what that does is just changes who makes the money. However, there's a component in that where the person doesn't have to be responsible for his behavior because he's mentally ill. So then how does he really recover if he can't take responsibility? If I walk down the street, see you and punch you, and law enforcement put me in jail, well, at some point I got to take responsibility. But if they say, oh, no, he's mentally ill, then I never take responsibility for my actions. So it's actually a way just to transfer who makes the money. And actually the new DA, I had a conversation with him, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to put mental health experts in the courtroom to determine if a person goes to jail or if a person goes to a mental hospital. Well, you know, we've always had a system of saying if a person was competent to stand trial or not. So, you know, we have to be very careful of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because unfortunately right now, I just feel that the mentally ill, instead of being in facilities or in centers where they could be treated, I'm seeing that they're being dumped into the prison system, and the prisons are not adequate or prepared to have these people that are mentally ill, and then they get worse, they act out because they're not getting treatment, and then they stay there indefinitely, and they get abused. A lot of people get killed, or the people that are mentally ill do things to other people, and it becomes a revolving door. So something has to be done to prevent people that are in prison just because they acted out. You know, it's like not, you know, prison should not be used just for punishment. I think prison should be used also as a rehabilitation center at the same time to get people to re-enter society. Like in our country, we are so focused on punishment that we do not invest in finding ways to have people rehabilitated. Because think about it, when someone serves their time and they get out of prison, how are they going to reintegrate into society? That's the question that I always ask.
Well, they do it the way they've done it over the last 100 or so years. The problem is that a lot of the mental illness is actually being caused by the treatment. It's like, let's say a 3-year-old boy is acting out and they tell him to be on psychiatric drugs. So now he gets an addiction to it. And then when the mother says, but he's moving slow, he's not behaving right, and take him off, there's an acting out because he's addicted to the drug. We have to look at what the drugs do. If you were talking about counseling, helping people cope, helping people work through their programs, that's great. Nobody's against actually mental health. What we're talking about is there's unproven drugs that have been proven that can cause people to commit suicide, homicide, to act out with behaviors. I owned the group homes for boys, and we were called a model home, and our only rule was if you were on psychiatric drugs, we didn't take you. We took you if you was acting out. We took the worst kids, but if they were on those drugs, we wouldn't take them. And we were able to produce football players, personal bodyguards, electricians, all types of individuals. We only had that one rule. And when they snuck in kids that were on those drugs, that's when we got the gas, sugar in the gas tank, people trying to set fires, all of those type of things. So what we have to do is they need to investigate, and that's one of the things I'm trying to do with the CCHR and with the NAACP. They need to start investigating the effects of these drugs and do comparison studies so that we know, because first of all, mental illness in this country is subjective. It is not based on chemical balance of the brain, because some of the top psychiatrists in the world have debunked that. So what are they operating on? And where's the test to show the effectiveness of these drugs, or what happens with electric shock? So that's what we're at CCHR more into, stopping the drugging. And if you got therapy that work, then use it.
I agree with you. There are ways to get people to change their behavior without getting medicated. I think medication actually does a lot worse than actually correcting the problem.
Exactly.
Right.
What about you, Margarita? What's your view on mental health and the criminal justice system right now?
Well, I'm a medical doctor, so I can talk a little bit about health and what mental illness is. Well, disease is a wrong function or non-function of some part of the body, organs or system, or like we have a heart disease, we have digestion disease, we have pulmonary disease, because that is part of the body. That is the subject of medicine. The subject of medicine is the body. Now we have to define what is the mind to see if we can say if the mind can have disease or could have disease, because disease is a wrong function of the cells or organs or system, but it's about physical body. And the people have the idea that the mind is equal brain, and it's not. Brain is an organ, it's part of the body.
Right.
Like we said, for example, the heart have emotions. When we fall in love, we say, oh, he touched my heart. And when he gone away, we say, oh, he break my heart. But we don't go to the cardiology to fix it.
No, of course not.
Right? Okay. So now we have people that have some specific behavior, or have hallucination, or they acting weird, and they have, the psychiatrists say, oh, have a mental disease, and treating the brain. Why? If the mind is not the brain. So that is the first thing that we have to see. So, okay, if the person has some mind problem, we don't have to treat the brain. Maybe needs counseling, maybe needs another thing, but doesn't need a drug that alters the brain and all the system on the body.
Yeah, because
And
the brain, the brain is an organ. Emotions are different from the brain. The brain is just like the computer of the body.
Yeah, the brain is part of the body. It's an organ, like a liver, kidney, heart. You know, it's part of the body. Mind is another subject. Mind is not the subject of medicine. Medicine treats the body. And of course, many physical problems cause some we can call mind symptoms. Like if you have very high temperature, probably you can feel an hallucination. But when the temperature go down, that's right, and nothing happened. So because you feel hallucination doesn't mean that you have a mental disease. Hallucination is not equal a mental disease.
No, there's two different
Exactly.
things.
But
hallucinations can be brought on by post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma.
Exactly, many things.
Many things.
Yeah, but the point is make a diagnosis correctly. So because it's easily that to put the label a mental disease, prescribe some medication forever, because it's not like a medical treatment that you do some period of time of treatment and you recover, while mental problem never recover. So something is wrong. It's not true. It's what Fred said before. It's about money, you know, because more prescription you write, more money you make, right? So that is one thing. And of course, that affect or have influence on criminal area, because the people who are taking psychotropic drug have a very serious behavior problem, and that's commit different crime, like and then the justice come on the subject. But I think the first step that we have to advise the people that not all the symptoms that the person have means mental disease. The person could feel depressed, could feel anxiety, could have hallucination, but doesn't mean that something is on the mind that needs medication in the brain. No. First, have to make a right, correct diagnosis. So the person can feel depressed for many reasons. Wrong nutrition, hormonal problem, intoxication, emotional things. The person can feel anxiety because also have wrong nutrition, missing some vitamins, minerals, supplements, could have intoxication with something. So the first step is make a diagnosis. If not, we are creating more and more criminals.
Exactly. I was gonna, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Claudia, as from a legal point of view, when you were practicing law in your native country, Venezuela, were you a criminal lawyer or a civil lawyer?
No, yeah, I was practicing labor law.
Okay,
uh, yeah, I didn't like the criminal system, but I can say, I would like to say something, right?
sure,
We
go
are
ahead.
in United States, and sometimes when I give educational conference to Hispanic community, I said, one of the beauties we, the Latin people, we are, and we can bring to this society, right? We as a Latin families, we believe in love. We believe in the union of family, right? And
Hmm.
we believe what Margarita was saying. And the Latin people is very, how to explain, they believe that the brain is an organ of the body, it's a part of
Hmm.
the organ, right? Our Latin communities are, many of them are very religious people, right?
Right,
Catholic or whatever, and then they don't believe on drugs too much. And
right.
sometimes, when, and so is I tell people, well, we have to give to this amazing country that gave us a lot of things. We have to give them a good example of what Latin people we really believe on, and that we educate our kids not with pills. We educate our kids with love and care, right? Which is true. However, I have been seeing here that many people has been like educating and taking drugs or taking pills is the solution for your depression, or is the solution for this, or is the solution for any mental situation you can have, right?
Hmm.
So it's our duty to educate people on that subject, right? And on all the harms, side effects of psychiatric drugs, and how kids can be just with having a proper nutrition and a proper environment, safe environment. The kids behave totally different. Is the kids is going to school and eating a pound of candy, for example, right?
Right.
So is that's basically that want to communicate. One of the work we do here with Latin people, they're very easy to be educated in the good way
Hmm.
about the side effects of drugs. They don't like. They say, no, I don't like pills. I don't like it. So,
Right.
you know, which is a good thing.
Right. And I've seen in many instances that a lot of people that end up in prison tend to be Hispanic, and a notion that I've also seen, according to what many psychologists and mental health professionals have said, that most of the Hispanics that do get locked up in prison for various things, they often are mentally ill. And unfortunately, when they are locked up, they get worse, and
Yeah.
it creates more
Mhm.
problems. And then, God forbid, when someone gets killed, let's say the one that gets killed is the breadwinner of the family is left without someone that brings the income to the house. So uh, that is something uh, that needs to be addressed,
Mm.
because in the Hispanic community there's a lot of stigma against seeking mental health, and a lot of people, instead of seeking mental health, they try to self-medicate with alcohol, with drugs, with overeating, being sexually promiscuous, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't resolve anything. It just temporarily masks the problem. It just makes it go away for a little bit, and then it comes back later on. So people get more and more into that addiction, and it makes the situation for the mind worse. And then it creates other social problems, like it could evolve into domestic violence, child abuse, robbery, uh, many different types of crimes. And we need to get to the source of the problem. The whole purpose of law is to enforce the law, but the law is not there to diagnose people or to raise people. That's not, you know, that's the problem that people have. People think by calling up the police when there's a disturbance, they think that's the answer to everything. So I think there needs to be some type of reforms where we could have not only a police officer go to a house, but at the same time have a mental health professional assigned at the same time when it comes to a civil disturbance. I'm not talking about when there's like a crime being committed, like a robbery. When it comes to like, you know, a child acting out or a family member that's not mentally stable, we need to have both a police officer and a mental health professional go together, so that way the mental health professional can decipher the situation and have the police there in case, you know, something does get out of hand.
Well, let me say this, and if there's someone out there that's really good, then I would advise that. But let me explain. When I was a law enforcement officer, we had to many times call the PET team. That option is there for law enforcement to do. However, the reason that law enforcement in the past did not call the PET team, because when they came out to assist us, they were basically useless, because we still had to arrest the people. And the only difference is we didn't take them to jail, we took them to the mental hospital. But if you looking at the fact that you just mentioned a very important thing. You talked about alcoholism. You talked about people using recreational drugs and becoming addicted. But I had a neurologist who told me that he would never say this publicly, but he would rather a person be on crack cocaine than on some of these psychiatric drugs. So if you throw out the drug equation, because they're only, it's like heroin and methadone. You replace one drug with another, and there's nothing that says that methadone is really any better than heroin. And so the thing is they call themselves professionals, but the only thing that determines if you're a professional or not is the fact that you can heal somebody or help somebody. And they're not actually, when you look at their record, when you look at veterans are killing themselves at 20 to 22 a day, when you look at the homeless population has exploded, when you look at the fruit of this, you see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's like the fox telling the farmer, we need more foxes to guard the chicken because somebody's eating the chickens, when it's the fox eating the chicken all along. So we have to make sure that we actually make them be accountable and make them have standards or results that we can measure, because otherwise it just keeps growing, and people are not getting help, and kids are committing suicide, and kids are committing homicide, and we can track it back, be it adults at Colorado in the movie, be it the person in Las Vegas, be it the ones that killed the people in Dallas and shot the policeman. All these people are on psychiatric drugs. Mm-hmm. So if that's the result of being on those drugs, then where's their expertise? Because the only thing to determine if you're a professional or not is, can you get results? If you say you're an expert in the economy and you can't fix it, you're not an expert. If you're a black belt, 5th degree black belt in the martial arts, and you can't fight, you're not a martial artist. So we have to say, what is the result? And that's where they are lacking. You don't see the result.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. And I think that the only way we could get results is that there needs to be resources put into preventing mental health. You know, not just dealing with it afterwards. We need to prevent.
There you go. There, yeah. You are hitting the key thing right there. Let me just give this real quick point.
Sure, go ahead.
If I cannot feed my family and I look into my wife's eyes and she has this pitiful look like I'm not helping and stuff, I can go depressed. But if in the next moment I hit the lottery, whatever depression I have would be gone. So let's contribute to helping on the front side and addressing the issue of unemployment and lack of education and all of these type of things, let's address that, and maybe we will not see so many people going over the deep end. Because right now people are unemployed in mass numbers. So you're gonna have, that's a normal reaction for the situation we're in. It's not mental illness. It's actually the emotion that's appropriate for the time.
That's right.
That's right. Well, as a medical doctor, I will give you my viewpoint. I think how we can handle all this problem. First, we have to define if a mental disease exists or not. Mind is not the organ, so they can have a disease. So mental disease doesn't exist, period. Exists the symptom. And so we have to see what is the source of that symptom. Is something on a physical problem, so need the doctor to fix the physical problem. Or is emotional issue, like this time people is inside the house, they can work, they don't have job, they don't have money. So
Hello?
I don't know if she's still there. I'm
Okay.
probably still.
Yeah, I just added her, so I don't know what happened. I was talking and then it's said hello, hello.
It just went
I don't know
dead.
what happened, I lost you.
Yeah,
Hey,
she's
Margarita.
Hey, I'm back.
Okay, it stopped recording when we got cut off. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm recording again. So it's gonna be a two-part video. So Margarita, can you continue where you left off before we got disconnected?
Oh, okay. So I was telling them we had to define if the mind is or not a disease, or could have or not disease. Mind doesn't have cells, so it's impossible to have a disease, because disease is a subject or a problem in cells, organs, or body.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is not the body, so the mind cannot have disease.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no discussion what drug we have to give the person with mind problem. The person doesn't need any drug for mind issues. We have to define if some physical problem cause mind symptoms, then the doctor has to treat the physical problem, like metabolism or infection or nutrition, something. If the person has some mind symptoms and it's not physical, then we can see the environment, we can see the family, and other specialists can help. But drug never will help mind, because mind doesn't have cells. Mind is not the organs. So the drug, the only thing that drug do is alterate the body functions. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can help people, if we want to help people with mind problem, we have to see the source of the problem, and then we can help. But if not, we will create more problems,
Mm-hmm.
like a psychiatric create. They prescribe drug for many years, drugs that are on the same category that cocaine, morphine, heroin, and we see the kid like 1 year old or less are taking some drug that is similar to cocaine or heroin, because the specialist, supposed to be a specialist, say they have a mind problem.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. So we have to define exactly what the mind problem is exactly. But it's not a disease, that is sure. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a disease. So
Right.
it's not the it for medicine.
Right, the mind and the body are two different things. That is definitely a factor. Um, I just feel that the United States is very unique when it comes to mental health because in other countries, you don't really have the same rampant problem of mental illness and crime as you do here. And America always gets singled out as the only unique country in the world where the mentally ill and people that are committing crimes go together, and when they have access to un unregulated weaponry, it just causes mass destruction. And again, not to get into like the gun debate or whatever, but I just feel that there are too many people that are mentally ill that are allowed by our current laws to have guns. It's like it's easier to buy a gun than it is to apply for food stamps in
Yeah.
many
And,
ways.
and, and we have to be honest. Mental disease doesn't exist on poor country when it's supposed to be the people have a lot more problem. But Claudia, how much mental disease are in Venezuela?
Well, not too many. The people are very
Exactly.
busy and trying to find food, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, and I will tell you as a Latin person, right? And when I said in my conference, I said, well, the best medicine that we used to have at home, you know, many families, is the groom, right? Why? Because the groom is the best pill, and mom showed you the groom, and you run to fix whatever have to be fixed. In other words, the people we don't treat, we don't consider real the people have a mental illnesses. Is something created for an industry, is something created to give people pills and drugs. Now, this is for the point of view of criminality, how you won't create a criminal society when you have kids from 6 months old getting psychiatric drugs that alters the mind. So what do you expect when that person gets 20 years old? Yeah, the person wants to get a gun and kill people. That would be a normal behavior when you are under the effects of drugs that alters your mind, alters your behavior. And if you see, for example, on the simple ad on TV of this drug or the other drugs and tells you all the list of side effects that drug can have, including suicidal thoughts, and don't counting all the physical side effects that you can even die. You can have a stroke, you can have a heart attack, you can have this, and you can kill somebody, you can want to kill yourself. How that drug is good for you. You see what I mean? And can you justify a big industry giving kids, again, 1 year old, 6 months old, 5 years old, a drug because the kid is impossible to handle, because the kid is bipolar or the kid is this. If the kid have a problem at school and somebody punched the kid on the face, it's normal the kid feel bad and cry.
Right.
You know, that's a normal behavior of a kid. Kids are people. Kids are, it's normal when I hear it, I can see cases that a girl, 13 years old girl, texts her best friend, I want to die because Joy left me. And the mom of the other girl called the police to get this girl for an involuntary examination because the girl wants to die. Jesus Christ, a 13 years old girl that have the boyfriend left her, of course she wants to die. It's a way to say she don't really mean that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it takes to get a lot of abuse. And then this girl gets in a psychiatric facility, all kinds of abuse sometimes happens. Don't mention even sexual abuse by even people from the facility. We have cases like that. On the top of that, she gets medicated and she cannot function well in life. And then what happened with the person? What happened with the future of this country or the future of the planet if we have all the kids taking drugs? that's something that we need to think about it. So in my opinion, the solution is education. We need to educate people about the side effects of drugs, and we need to educate people about what the normal human behavior is and what is considered no normal. That's, you know what I mean?
Right. I believe that everything today has gotten so politically correct that people are afraid to dialogue. It's like I know people from other countries that have told me that they don't take each other to court for trivial matters. It's like in this country,
Yeah.
if you they just want to sue you for anything. It's like if you run over a dog, they want to sue you. If you run over somebody's mailbox, they want to sue you. If you look at somebody the wrong way, they want to sue you. If you say something that may not be, I don't know, that's not necessarily offensive, but people might take it the wrong way, they want to sue you for X, Y, and Z. It's like uh, it's gotten to a point that our justice system has become a travesty. It's a joke to the rest of the world, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people are opposed to America trying to impose its values on other countries. It's like, how can you impose your values onto us when you cannot even resolve your own issues and your own internal problems within your own country? And that is something that we need to take into consideration. Mental health is not just a social issue; it is also a national security issue for everybody, and it's also a future issue for our community, because if everyone in the Hispanic community is mentally ill or on drugs or whatever, they can't function, then they don't bring income, and then they don't bring taxes. So it affects everybody in the long run.
That's just a other problem, because in case of kid, um, so if the kid gets some label like a mental disease, then the parent receives some money or money support because have a kid with disability or issue. And then they went into some cycle that, okay, I get money for that, so I keep my kid on drug, because if I put my kid out the drug, I don't receive money and I lose some benefit at the school or transportation or this or that. So we go back to the beginning, what Fred said is all about money. It's the money move that this weird, and school receive money, parents receive money, drug company receive money, doctor who prescribe receive money. So just we have to take a little bit more responsibility for our kid and be more patient,
Right.
because it's easy to say is hyperactivity, is bipolar, give a pills, and so the kid stop moving around and I receive money. Okay, for now it's easy, but after years, this kid grow, get a gun, go to the school and shooting many other students. So if we cannot resolve the problem, we can start very early to
Right.
educate people and make a little small change on all area, then will be different on the future.
Right, and that's the whole point why I started my movement, HLM, Hispanics Lives Matter, because I feel that Hispanics are the only group of people that really don't have any type of advocacy or representation of any kind, either from the political level or the social level. And especially now with what's going on with the economy and the police, Hispanics are being targeted by everybody. We are blamed for the economy. We are blamed for people not having work, and every time something happens to us, it's like nobody cares or nobody cares to do anything about it. And I feel that the only way we can protect ourselves as a community is that we need to organize, and we need to organize ourselves into looking after our communities. And one way that we organize ourselves is that we need to look after the community in terms of providing a form of a safety net, which right now the Hispanic community lacks. And to prevent more problems from happening in the community, we need to do like some type of a safety net. Like an idea that I had is that I would like to get sponsors to establish little food pantries in Hispanic areas and stock those little food pantries with goods like canned goods and whatever, but you know, organic and healthy to promote the people to eat healthy. And that's another thing. What causes, like what Dr. Margarita was saying, what causes people to have an imbalance in the brain is like what people eat. People don't realize the added sugars, the added sodium, the preservatives, and whatever. As with drugs and medication, can also alter the mind, and that could also cause problems as well. So we need to try to take care of our bodies, at the same time educate the parents, because a lot of people like to blame the children for everything. We can't blame the children for everything. The children are only responsible up to a certain point. If the children is getting a bad example or living in an environment where a certain type of behavior is okay, then the child is going to assume that it is okay to act that way or be that way because that's what they're seeing at home. So it becomes normal for them. So that is something that needs to be changed.
That's correct. I want to just add something. When you may reminds me when I was in law school, long time ago. We were studying the criminal behavior, right, of the criminal. I guess in English we call it forensic medicine.
Forensic science. Forensic science.
Right, in English, right. One of the things I remember my thesis on the final on that subject was we did a full investigation talking about Venezuela, right? When we have a high percentage of poverty in the country. Now it's worse, but one of the things that was found at that time is the high criminality start from home. In other words, when somebody was born in a poor environment, no access to education, no access to a good nutrition, when the mother and the pregnancy is being treated with violent treatment by the husband or smash the lady on the kid. In other words, and when the person was born is not even how you said that desnutrido. Means doesn't have the that's right. So obviously, when the person is getting older, is gonna be a criminal. So the point you brought here is, I think I'm talking about the Latin communities, right? Is very important, education. And the education, you are right, people have to be educated about food. People have to be educated about how to treat, to get the body in a good shape so the person will be mentally stronger, and the person, a kid go to school with no food in his stomach, of course cannot be aware of what is happening in the school because he's hungry. He needs food. If you have food in your stomach, how you're gonna think? You see what I mean? So it's in the Latin countries, right? We have a high incidence of poverty. When we have a lot of Latin community come to the States, right? They have that pattern of behavior. Does that make sense? What is that? So yes. I agree with you. People need to be educated and get properly fed and sleep on the right times, to be moderate taking alcohol, right? And all these kind of things, that's gonna help for for sure to get less criminality in our society. I agree with that.
Mhm. Yes. Anything you would like to add, Margarita or Fred?
Well, I would just say that we've hit on some key points. You mentioned something that is very true. It's like we're a country here of punishment. Everything has a punishment. People's choice, be they good or bad, are being taken away from them. But we make people behave the way we say, even though evidence don't necessarily prove that out. And when we look at mental health, everything would be true that they say if we were actually talking about mental health. But as I think Margarita mentioned, this is about a kid acting out and you give him a drug to basically subdue him. That's not mental health, that's mental control. Now, if we labeled it mental control, then the actions they're taking would be appropriate. But we actually call it health. So then that's not a viable solution to do that, because that's not, because health would indicate that you think faster, think quicker, your IQ would expand. That's what health would mean. Mm-hmm. So if they label it properly, then it might be a different thing. Then we say this is mental control because we're electroshocking babies and we're drugging children and adults and all of the, I just had spoke at a group and I told them, if we cannot do electric shock to prisoners of war and terrorists, why are we doing it to children and pregnant women?
Yeah.
And they can't even explain why they do that. I mean, they'll say, oh, only in the case of severe depression. How do you know a 1-year-old is severely depressed? So right. it's these are the things that we bring up. This is why we attack it, because they use the television. You go on TV and you see a lady sitting there and she says, my drug doesn't handle depression alone. But if you take this drug, it's found to be 62% more effective. Well, wait a minute. You told us the first drug was effective. That's why you gave it to us. Now you're telling us we need 2 drugs. And 3 years from now, 4 years from now, you're going to tell us we need 3 drugs. Well, they're giving most of the kids multiple drugs anyway. But, I mean, so this is what we have to look at. The propaganda, the words they use. They say, the Black and Hispanic community must, you use the word, get away from the stigma. The Black and brown community have always taken care of their family. In the Black community, when Uncle John got sick, everybody in the family knew it. The oldest child was put in the room with Uncle John. All the neighbors knew it in case Uncle John got out. Mental health created the idea of the stigma to be able to latch on to those 2 communities. That just was a marketing campaign. It wasn't based on anything that helped the communities. It was a marketing campaign to say, remove the stigma. And all the mental health echoed that. And then it starts seeping in. If you hear it enough times, you start believing it.
That's very true. We've come to the end of our time. I would like to do questions and answers. Is there anything you would like to ask Claudia, Margarita, or Fred?
No, I'm fine. I think that this is very informative. I thank you for doing this. And we're bringing this to a whole new audience. And at least people get to choose out of it.
I agree.
I want to thank for this invitation, and I hope I can contribute a little bit with this. I'm very happy to help in the future for anything is needed to educate the Latin community, and I think that's the bottom line that we need to resolve: educate and help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, I will definitely send a link to everybody of the podcast, and we will definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much for everybody for being on the show, and I will talk to you all later. Have yourself a good evening.
Oh, one thing.
Yes.
Is this two-part or one part?
What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna try to edit it into one video. If I cannot, I'll make it into 2 parts and then send 2 links to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Que tenga buenas noches.
Okay,
Igualmente.
tú también. Bye.
Gracias.
Buenas
Bye-bye.
noches.
Buenas
Buenas,
noches.
buenas
Ciao,
noches.
Fred.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, Claudia.
Chao, Margarita. Adiós.